This is like a Hemi setup, 2 4-barrels, 2 carters. Just a little bit over 1,000 CFMs. I just hope these carburetors work. Here we go. The moment of truth. Hi, my name is Nick and welcome to Nick's Garage. Okay, I've got an engine on the dyno that I did not build. This is an engine that Julian bought in British Columbia, Vancouver. He bought a Dodge Fever Challenger that's in my shop. If you guys remember on the live show, we had it here and we had the flames coming through the carburetor. Anyways, it's here because he doesn't want to stay with the 4-barrel. He wants to have a fancy nostalgia look of a 59 to 61 2 4-barrel 383, because this 383 intake manifold will fit on this engine because this is a B engine and so is the 383. So this is a stroked out 400 cubic inch to a 451 cubic inch because it is a stroker. And what we just want to know is how much kind of horsepower are we going to lose? What kind of horsepower are we going to have a loss with this 2.4 setup? But I don't think it's going to make any power. We're going to lose power. But the question is, how much power are we going to lose? Here we go. Here we go. So, okay, let's get it started and let's make one little test. We're not looking for maximum power out of this engine. I know what it's doing. So, let's get it going. I just want to warm it up, make one little quick test, see what it does. Then after that, we're going to go to the 2 4-barrels. I already have this timing set up, everything, and we're just going to warm it up and take it from there. You know, I know my viewers like the dyno room, what goes on in my dyno room, because I always talk about a lot of different engines coming in, coming out. You know, I have engines that come in that are not built by me, like this one, for example, is not built by us. The only thing I did is paint the engine and replace the valve covers and the oil pump, and the rear oil seal was leaking. So we also had that replaced, and then my client decided to put a new oil pan. We've done so, painted it orange, also put a new water pump, 8-blade, and we're using his headers from the car, his carburetor as it came in. Of course, he's got new spark plug wires, and that's about it. And right now, let's get it running.
So, as we like to say here at Nick's Garage, the dyno always tells the truth. And today the truth is that this big Mopar stroker is producing 563 pounds of torque and 535 horsepower when it's breathing through the 4-barrel setup. Now it's time to find out how much power the antique 383 intake manifold with the twin quad setup will rob from this engine.
You know, we had some run on. I turned off the engine earlier. The engine kept on running. You know, I think we need a stronger octane fuel. But I checked the cylinder pressure. We're at 180, 185. But with the aluminum edge, you shouldn't do that. I just want to tune it with the 2 4-barrels, and we'll take it from there. You're gonna have to give me some time. I gotta do the setup with the fuel lines and everything. Gotta remove the intake manifold. I hope the intake gasket does not rip off. I've had it glued onto the valley pan, and hopefully that the intake manifold does not need any planing, that it just bolts on without any issues. Okay, so one way to find out. Let's get it running. Let's put it on. Here we go. Right, this won't take long. Just gonna remove the intake manifold. What's good, what I like about the big block Mopars is that you don't have to play with the distributor or with any coolant to replace the intake manifold. You take a big block Chevy, you gotta take out the distributor and drain the coolant to change the intake manifold. But the big block Mopars, no issue. You don't touch the distributor, no coolant, just the intake manifold, 8 bolts, and that's it, you're done. I hope I can save the gasket as I remove it. This should not take long as long as the carburetors run. I hope they run. Anyways, one way to find out, put them on. Seems like it's stuck. Hope I can save that gasket. Here we have two different complete worlds. We have a Performer RPM high-rise dual plane intake manifold on a Holley 4-barrel double pumper 750. And over here we got two 625 Carters sitting on a cast iron old style flat intake manifold from a early 1959, 61, 383. Two different worlds. Look at the height difference. Look at the height. It's got a few inches difference right here. You can see about 2 inches higher on the aluminum intake versus the cast iron. But it's all good. Let's put it on, let's get it running, and see how it goes. Here we go. I hope this gasket looks good. I think it does. Okay, it's all sealed, looks good. All right, here we go. Oh, so far the bolts lined up, that looks pretty good. Looking good. Hope Julian gets a good number of these. He said that we're gonna lose about 30 horsepower. Okay. One way to find out, we're going to run it right away, right after we did the test with the 4-barrel. And let's see how it goes. When it comes down to tightening the intake manifold, it all depends how much you tighten it with a cast iron cylinder head or aluminum cylinder head. In this case, we got aluminum cylinder head, so you're not going to tighten as much as you want. You got to be very careful. You know, when you look at the torque specs, with the factory shop manual, it's a cast iron cylinder head. But in this case, this man has aluminum cylinder head, so we're not going to tighten them as much as a cast iron cylinder head. So in that case, I'm going to do it my way, like I've been doing it for so many years, because I've done so many and I know how much to tighten it down. This is like a Hemi setup, 2 4 barrels, 2 Carters, just a little bit over 1,000 CFMs. I just hope these carburetors work. You know, I gotta get this engine in the car, so I gotta move on it.
And now, here's a personal message from Nick.
Okay, I have a special announcement. I want to wish Blinky a happy 64th birthday on behalf of your daughter, Natalie. And thanks for watching us here on Nick's Garage. 64. Happy birthday, Blinky. Okay, you viewers on Nick's Garage, how much horsepower are we going to lose? Take a guess and comment below. Okay, I'm going to start up for the first time with the dual quad setup. Let's see where we get. Here we go. Very lean. Here we go. Here we go. The moment of truth. Okay, let's see what happened. Here we go. Wow, it still has over 500 foot-pounds of torque. At 4,200 RPM, we got 511.8 foot-pounds of torque, which is about 512, not bad. Horsepower came in at, well, 496 at 5,600 RPM, 496. So already we're showing about just over 30 horsepower. That's not bad. We lost 30 horsepower with just this intake manifold and the carburetor. You know what, I'll make another test back to back. And later on I'm going to try to make it idle, but in this case, I'm just very surprised. We lost more torque than we lost in horsepower. But let me make another test back to back, you guys. You know, I just don't want to make one test. We'll do another one. Then we'll just match our numbers and see what the difference is between these 2 4 barrels versus the Elderbach Performer RPM with the 750 Holley double pumper. And there's the graph right now. It looks like it's the torque goes up, stays steady, and then it just drops. Take a look. You know what, it doesn't really matter. Like we said, we're not gonna race this car or anything like that. He just wants it for looks. I just want to see what kind of power difference we're gonna have in torque numbers. So I'm gonna make another test back to back and see how it goes. Here we go. Then after that, I gotta work on the outer unit circuit. You know, one thing I forgot to check was the air fuel ratio. God forbid. Wow, we're running very lean, so you know what? This thing has to be richened out. It's very lean. We're running 13.8, 13.9, 13.7. So we're gonna have to richen it out. You know, by richening it out, we're gonna make more power. But anyways, here we go. I just want to see what it did now. We still have about 516 foot-pounds of torque at 4,500 RPM. Horsepower stopped at 502 at 6,000. But you know what? It's still about 500 horsepower. So looks like I'm gonna have to thin out the meeting rods or put bigger jets because our fuel ratio is kind of lean. I don't want to go any further because you know we're gonna do some damage to the engine. But you know, I'm really surprised. 30 horsepower. Julian was right. Julian, you were good, buddy. But you know what? If I'm gonna give it more fuel, we're gonna make some more power with this flat cast iron intake of 1959. Wow. Okay, let's see, maybe I can change the meter rod, see if we can do anything with that. Let's go. Wow, I'm really surprised. I'm really surprised that intake manifold did the job. Wow, this is an antique style intake. But then again, it's got 2 4 barrels. Take out the rods, see if I got the rods in stock. Maybe I can change them. Here we go. These carburetors, you know, we've lost 30, we lost about 30 horsepower and maybe close to 40 foot-pounds of torque. But you know what, I'm really surprised. It's still at over 500 horsepower, not bad. And we still have to go to higher RPM, but I don't want to go any further. I got to richen it up because I don't want to do any damage to the engine. So now I got to look at these rods. I got to measure them. The thicker they are, the leaner it runs. And as you can see, there's, I'll bring you some other rods so you can see what I'm talking about. You know, I've bought so many kits. I've bought every number available from Elderbrock for the Carter carburetors. I do not know what jets are in there, but I'm not going to play with any jets at all. I'm just going to play with the meter rods and see if it can help us make it a little bit richer. See, the power tip is right here at 62 thou. So we're going to get something thinner so it can give it more fuel. I have a match set and we'll take it from there. And you know, we got 2 rods in the front and another 2 meter rods in the back. We're going to go from a 62 to a 44, like so. Okay. Okay, we got one here. There we go. There's a spring-loaded spring that holds the rod onto the piston. There's a thinner rod that's going to go through the front jets. Let's put it back in here. Then move on to the other one on the other side. And we have 4 meter rods. So far we changed 1. Look how simple it is, you guys. Take off the cover, like so. Move the door to the side. Make sure the spring doesn't pop out. You know, there's springs here. You guys, you can see these springs. The lesser vacuum you have, the lighter the spring should be. These are black springs for standard vacuum, but they're not the correct springs for the vacuum reading we have. But in the meantime, I just want to see what I can do with this right now. I want to get the air fuel ratio perfect at full throttle. Then after that, we're going to work on the idling circuit. And then let's go to the rear. To the rear carburetor. And this is the one that idles on. The primary 2 barrels is right here with the choke. So let's measure these rods now. These are 54. They're much thinner, so we're gonna go to mid 40s. Okay, let me find the mid 40s right now. Okay, here we go. What's this one here? Okay, 44. If you take a good look, I'm gonna go for the 44 also, just like I did in the front. Okay. There's a lot to determine. There's also a second step that you have to measure. But right now I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Just want to get the air fuel ratio. I'm just trying to max out the horsepower on wide open throttle only. Okay, so we got this one in. We got one more meeting rod. Then we're off to testing one more time. I'm really surprised this intake manifold made over 500 horsepower. Designed back in 1959 or 1958. Jeez, can't believe it. You know, those days they did go fast with their cars. If you had the right setup, right air fuel ratio, timing, and so forth. It seems to impress me that we only lost 30 horsepower. I'm really surprised. Okay, I'm ready to start it. Let's give it a shot. Here we go. There's so many things to work with when you work on carburetors. You got the jets. You got jets to look at. You got meeting rods, and then you got a choice of springs. So all this could be fine tuning when you're driving it in on the street with the car, with the weight, the load, the transmission you have, the gear ratio. So you know what? Fine tuning will be done in the car on the road. But in the meantime, we're just doing it for wide open throttle. Here we go. And I bought every kit that's available for the carburetors from Eldebach. They had so many numbers, I bought them all because, you know, when you work in the dining room, you play with so many different carburetors, you gotta have everything. You know, you work at nights, you work on weekends, you're not gonna stop anything. You know, you gotta have everything on hand, just like I have right here in my shop. Okay, let's see what it does. So Julian, what do you think? What do you think it's gonna do this time? We hit the 501. Let's see if we can do any further up on that. Let's go. Here we go. Let's see where we did. Okay, here we go. Wow. That's very strange. We're doing some good numbers right now. I'm really surprised. Look at the torque numbers. Wow, we got almost 530 foot-pounds of torque. Okay, we had 563 earlier with the 4-barrel. We're catching up. Here we are. We got 528.6. So we're almost at 530 foot-pounds of torque at 4,500 RPM. And the horsepower, gee, are you telling me I gotta go at a higher RPM? Check this out. I think it's maxed out at 6,000 RPM. 506 at 6,000 RPM. That is strange. Usually a taller intake manifold will go at a higher RPM. But it's really impressive. That's still climbing at 6,000 RPM. Yeah, you know, these hard rodders in 97 they had a pretty good idea what they were doing. After all, they did go with 2.4s. Maybe they didn't go with a higher intake manifold. They did go with a cross ram, which I'm sure worked a lot better than this. But this is a simple cruising. I don't know, had them in DeSoto's or Chrysler old cars or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what kind of a car they came in, but you know what? It's pretty impressive. You know, you put a cam, you put compression, you put aluminum heads. It's doing pretty well. Pretty well. But should I go over 6,000 RPM? Check this out. No, I don't think so. according to my graph, it drops off. So I'm going to leave it at that. Look, it just stays steady. Look at that. You know what? It is what it is. 506, 507. So we lost, here we go. We lost about 25 horsepower, just about a little bit over 30 foot-pounds of torque versus this setup versus the 4-barrel. I am surprised that this intake manifold worked up to 6,000 RPM. Really surprised. I thought it would choke the engine, but it did pretty well. It is running a little bit rich right now. We're running at 12.6, 12.7. I'm gonna have to find a meter rods in between. Then I gotta find the correct springs when I road test the car on the road. But in the meantime, it's running rich. So maybe I should just lean it out just a bit. Maybe I should change the rods again. We're running at 12.5, 12.6, which I'd rather run at 12.9, 13 to 0 at full wide open throttle, I should say. I'm gonna start playing with the jetting and the metering rods in this and the springs. So I'm gonna do some further testing. But for now, I just want to show you guys what it can make out, just throwing them on quick, getting a fuel ratio. But in the meantime, we still hit over 500 foot-pounds of torque, over 500 horsepower. So that's pretty impressive for a flat intake manifold that was designed in 1959. So folks, there you have it. Not bad at all. Of course, Julian was right. He was going to lose about maybe 30 horsepower. So Julian, if you're watching, you're absolutely correct. You're on the money. But you know, maybe we could get a little bit more horsepower just leaning it out a bit. But I'll do that later on. I'm going to look for the correct rods. But in the meantime, it's pretty impressive. It's pretty good. Let me get to work on the idling system. And then you guys, there you have it. And you know, with this flat intake manifold, you have more hood clearance. And in this case, he's got a very tall scoop that he could have put anything he wanted. But it doesn't matter. This is what he wanted. This is what he's going to get. It looks pretty impressive. But doesn't have the hammerheads like the two 4-barrels. But it looks pretty good. So Dodge Fever, here comes your beautiful engine. And you guys, if you look down below the video, we have a whole bunch of merchandise that you guys can buy. So whatever you like, buy it, love it, wear it, and enjoy it. And help spread the word of Nick's Garage. And if you have some time, check out our Patreon page. We have extra content and you guys can watch it and take it from there. And we'll see you next time.